Hello and welcome back to today's bit of a rant, I'm afraid. It's not about bad behaviour, but I got really cross about the Climate and Emergency Committee meeting. Cross? Why? Well, Suffolk County Council have a local nature recovery strategy. And basically, it's a 300-page document about the whole of Suffolk, and it identifies locations where nature can do better. I think that probably sums it up actually, but essentially it's based around every area in the county, and it itemises where things are not doing too well, where things could be made better. And I was reasonably hopeful that our council would come to this and do the public consultation thing, because Suffolk County Council have asked all interested parties, individuals, businesses, groups, to actually say what they think. And there's a survey, and it asks you to make comments based on their document, and the closing date is tomorrow. So 24 hours from now, our council, their climate and emergency meeting, who are really passionate about all things ecological and pleasant, I was expecting would be well prepared and organised. How stupid was I? One councillor appeared to have read the document. Wendy Brooks starts the meeting off by saying that she's completely shocked and she doesn't understand the document.
Okay, number 8, to consider avenues of community engagement and relevant actions. 8.1, to consider a consultation submission for the local nature recovery strategy consultation engagement. A toolkit for recovering nature in Suffolk has been created to map locations and actions to help link up and restore the county's wildlife. The public consultation is open until the 11th of June. Okay, does anyone have any comments?
Yeah,
I do, but I'll come in after.
well, I do have a comment. I mean, basically, this is probably one of the worst consultation documents I've ever seen, in that it is so full of jargon and scientific knowledge that you need a basic, not just basic, you need an advanced level of environmental science to understand it. And also you need kind of X-ray vision to read the maps. So the idea that somehow this is a consultation for local people of Suffolk seems to me to be rather missing it, and I doubt they're going to get many responses.
This just made me just like sigh in disgust, really, because it's a proper, detailed, scientific report been put together to give real hard information, and it does. And she doesn't understand it. Well, if you don't understand it, don't comment on it, because it makes you look silly. Wendy used to be a teacher. I used to be a teacher. I understand it. If she doesn't understand it, what on earth is she doing on a committee that is dealing with complex information? It's unbelievable.
Which is a shame, because the idea behind it is very, very good. You know, yes, we do need a nature recovery, definitely. However, somehow they have avoided the fact that Sizewell C is going to be blocked near Halesworth, and new roads are being built, and car parks are being built, and trees are being chopped down all over the place. And there is a proposal by the National Grid to stick pylons all the way through the Waveney Valley, and solar farms seem to be proliferating. And this document just seems to be ignoring all of that. And also it seems to be ignoring Lowestoft, because we're not even mentioned, even though we have Carlton Marshes, Alton Marshes, Gunton Warren, Gunton Wood, Ancient Woodlands. We're not even in it. So worthy as it is, it just seems to me to be just totally unrealistic. The whole thing. It's just, who is it for?
Who is it for? The people of Suffolk. And by the way, it does mention Carlton Marshes in the report as one of our other councillors just points out, she's not read it. She's just making all these statements and she hasn't read the document. It's just embarrassing.
Okay, so I read in detail and skimmed all 300 odd pages, and I was pleased to see parts of it I thought were really good, in that I was pleased to see the inclusion of edible parks, wildlife bridges to cross roads and green crossings, lighting to minimise the impact on biodiversity, increase urban trees by 20%, small mammal road signs to warn people of like toads crossing the road. But as Wendy says, certain things seem to be omitted. So the fact that Sizewell C is having a massive impact on the environment. Also, we have quite extensive river pollution and coastal pollution, which wasn't mentioned. Now, I don't know, it seemed it wasn't talking about the pressure. Well, it was talking about the pressures, and it did actually include Carlton Marshes. So Carlton Marshes are actually in there. So there is a section on Carlton Marshes, which is good because they were praising what had happened at Carlton Marshes. But it was quite difficult to relate the plan. You were meant to read the consultation in conjunction with the plan, and that's the plan. And it was so difficult to work out which areas were which and which areas related to what, and yet you were meant to read the two together, so it was very difficult to do that. And the plan was so small and it had various, you know, crossings and things on it which were very difficult to interpret. So for the layman it would be quite extremely difficult, I would say, to actually understand everything.
There's a very difficult process. You know, do you make something designed for a 12-year-old to understand, or do you make it designed for someone who's got some background knowledge and knows their stuff? You know, we're talking about different levels. I mean, in education, as Wendy was a teacher, we have various levels, don't we? Level 2, GCSE, we have level 3, A-levels and national diplomas. And then we move on to higher education with levels 4, 5 and so on. Each one's harder, but each one contains more information. If you're going to have a report that is dumbed down to the lowest level so that absolutely everybody can understand it, it's going to miss stuff. It has to simplify stuff. It has to actually sort of tell tiny little lies so that people understand, because if you tell the truth, it gets too complicated. That's a very difficult thing to do. And I read this thing, and sure, it's full of jargon, it's full of buzzwords, but the information is in there. Now, this business about the maps, I just don't get at all, because there is a key to the map. You know, all maps have keys, don't they, that tell you what the little symbols mean. That means it's a church. That means it's a marsh. I mean, they're all on there. But on this particular map, the county has been divided into two sort of categories. Areas of particular importance for diversity. They're the red hatched areas. So if you look in our sort of neck of the woods, we've got things like Leithsham. We've got all the places where, you know, nature is doing okay. The dark blue areas are where an area could turn into one of those diverse areas. I was really interested that outside my own house, just round the corner, there's a little bit of sort of tree land. You know, there's probably 20 little trees, bushes, all sorts of stuff. And that's actually been identified as a little plot of land that will possibly turn into something even nicer. So, you know, they've spotted a tiny little bit of land like I've got near my house. So this map is incredibly detailed.
And I have spoken to a couple of people who tried to submit a response and gave up. So I suspect that the response won't be that great. So although I think the plan is good in that it's extremely comprehensive, it wasn't that easy to understand.
So here we are. All you have to do is click on that, complete an online consultation. It then asks you about answering it. It says you don't have to answer every question. It explains exactly what's going on. Then the next bit is, which version of the survey do you want to do? The reduced version takes about 15 minutes. It recommends you spend at least 20 minutes to look at the strategy and 10 minutes to explore the mapping. Now that's the reduced version. That's the simple one, if you like, the idiot's guide to making comments. Or if you want to, if you're deadly serious about this sort of thing, then the extended version. It's going to take about an hour to read, 30 minutes to explore it. It's got all of the reduced question sections and then an extra section. It's got more technical, detailed and in-depth questions about the strategy. This version is for those who have read a significant proportion of the strategy. Well, as our lot haven't read the strategy, bar one, the chair, they had to go to the reduced version, if you like, that's the dumbed down version. That was the only option available to them. And of course, the last bit actually says, to provide feedback on the draft LNRS, please tell us which sections of the draft document you have viewed. Well, at least one of the councillors hasn't reviewed any of it. So the whole thing is just incredibly embarrassing.
So what should our response be?
Well, so in terms of responses we can give, particularly on the map, one thing you could do is comment on the habitat map. So throughout the one we can put through everything that we've said. In terms of the actual consultation though, it's an online consultation. It's very much a question by question survey.
So should we do it now then?
Should we do the reduced version or the extended version? Let's do the
What's
reduced
the
one.
difference?
Reduced would take at least 15 minutes to complete. The extended would take at least 45 minutes to complete.
Let's start with small steps.
Yeah, let's start with the small one then. Let's see how we go. Start with the reduced one and see how
Let's
we
start
go.
with the reduced, definitely.
Let's start with the reduced one. Well, words fail me for the first time ever. If their response is going to actually mean anything, surely the Climate Emergency Committee should have actually had a think about this in advance, so they could actually make comments that were really relevant, important, vital and appropriate. And all they're going to do is now do the reduced version, which is what every one of us can do. They're supposed to be a committee. It's supposed to be the experts on making sure the planet is wonderful. And they're going to do the dumbed down version because, the other one's too hard, isn't it? I won't bore you with the rest of that because they then spent the rest of the meeting filling in the questionnaire as a group. And it was just too embarrassing for words. So I'm afraid I'm a bit disillusioned with the Climate Emergency Committee. Worthy ideas, but they could have actually done something really good from this. They could have actually had a thought. One of them could have read the thing properly and formulated all the responses in advance, got it approved by the others, and then whatever was sent off in the name of Lowestoft Town Council would have been considered answers. Instead, we just get off the top of your head responses, and that's what the council have submitted. And I just think that's really awful. I mean, a bunch of people who are supposed to be in favour of keeping the environment wonderful couldn't even get their heads round the more complicated response, which I would have assumed something like a Climate Emergency Committee would have done. But no, we got the dumbed down version. And I just think that's pretty appalling that not anybody in that group had bothered to plan for this extraordinary meeting. So there we go. I'm just a bit disappointed, to be honest. I expected better. And I dare say quite a few people could have done better had they given it a bit more thought. Anyway, that's enough for today. I'll see you on the next minute. Let's hope we get back to some sort of decent councillering, because that was a good example of how terrible council activities could actually be. The response of a team of people who knew nothing about what they were actually commenting on. See you on the next video. Look after yourselves. Take care.